It's about to go down. It's your boy, Carlos Siqueira, with another episode of the Carlos Inspire Show in the house. And today, my friend, we have an incredible guest that is about to share some incredible wisdom on today's show. What if I told you that every single thing that if you ever been taught about selling is a lie? That the difference between struggle and success isn't hustle, isn't talent or luck. It's a single invisible force 99% of marketers ignore. And today, Chris Doe is here to expose it. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Chris Doe. What's up, my brother?
Well, what a high energy intro. That's probably the highest energy intro I've ever heard so far. So wow. Okay,
I
I'm ready to do this.
I appreciate that, brother. You inspire me, my friend. I love everything that you do, man. As a father, as a human, as a mentor, as a coach, you're out there helping so many people. And I'm very, very excited for some of you guys. If you don't happen to know Chris, man, Chris is a Emmy-winning director and designer. He's an international speaker, a branding and sales mentor on a mission to teach 1 billion people to make a living doing what they love. Highly recommend you guys checking Chris online. Over 2.5 million followers on YouTube. The future, the guy is constantly sharing so much awesomeness and wisdom. And I cannot wait for us to go at it today and have an incredible episode to celebrate podcast 6-year anniversary. As you guys know, we try to bring incredible guests here over the last 6 years. People that are no longer here, like Frank Shankwitz, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation. My boy Scott Page, that played for Pink Floyd. Frank Shamrock, UFC legend. Brandon Dawson, over $1 billion at the Cardone Ventures. Incredible leaders. Sharon Lecter, the godmother of personal development, among many, many other legends. And today, another legend on the show for us to record this incredible episode. I want to give a shout out to one of our companies, Disruptors Code. I'm a co-founder. Today we are self-sponsoring the show. Anybody here that been, lost some money in real estate or crypto or in the stock and is tired to losing money for those hedge funds and those crooks out there, I want you guys to go and check it out. Disruptorscode.com. We are teaching people growing their money tax-free, protecting against marketing downsides and manipulation, and also growing that money tax-free and doing something that the wealthy been doing for so long, borrowing it against tax-free. To learn more about that, go to disruptorscode.com. Watch a video there, me interviewing a founder and of a company, and you guys get on our calendars and we will talk. But my friend Chris, man, I'm super excited. I'm so looking forward. I remember you and I back in London, at the airport hanging out a year ago, as you and I are always traveling around the world, man. And I was like, we're going to be doing a show together one of these days. And the day is here. And Chris, you said your price is a story, not a number. If Nike wanted to sell a $10 product for $1,000, how would they reframe the story? And how can a small business with no audience copy that playbook?
Well, that's a tough question. The way that you would make a $10 product worth $1,000 is you have to sell to people who can afford to buy everything. And the way that you do that is you create some kind of scarcity and demand, and a combination of those two things will drive the desire to have something. So once you reach a certain level of success, when you can buy all the things that you want, what you want is what other people can't have. Like, this is why people collect art. It's a one-of-one creation. And then there's a story that's attached to that. Conversely, too, you could also try to make it with really expensive materials and try to up the perceived value of the thing, but then you're changing the $10 product. So maybe that's cheating a little bit. So if you were just to reduce the supply of it, attach a story to it, and make it very difficult to buy. Maybe the first one is through invitation only, the first set. And so that certain people can say, I have this very rare thing and it's valuable and it could trade. And then based on that, then you could probably launch your $1,000 product. They've already done this many times with sneakers. So limited drops that are only available to hardcore subscribers that show up on a certain day at a certain time, and there's an allotment, and then once it's gone, it's gone.
Wow, what just incredible answer, my friend. You are somebody over here. Shout out Alvin saying Chris Doe is a genius. Yes, he is, my friends. I love it, guys. Drop your questions and comments below, and we will bring them on the stage. No, that is so true, Chris. I often I do a lot of workshops for like insurance companies and car salespeople, and I often tell them, it's just these small subtle changes in the tonality of our voice, how you are framing the product, and like you say, the scarcity piece, that is such an important topic. And I often tell people, whether they are telemarketing or in person or whatever methods you guys are selling right now at home, let's say even when you guys are doing a Zoom and you promoting your product and talking about closing your businesses, whether it's coaching, consulting, whatever business that is, really, really pay attention. What is the problem they seek and they don't have, that you can solve it through your framework? And then pay close attention to the subtle differences, right, on how we talk and our sound, the speed of our voice, right? Whether you're talking to seniors is one speed. If you are a wealth advisor or into financial advising, you cannot have what do you call it? I went blank. You cannot have a raspy voice, right? Whenever you sound like that with air, they don't care, right? You lose trust, right? So there are subtle changes that we can all make and adapt. I often tell people, record yourself. Look at the recording of your last sales call. It's the little stuff. But I love your answer, my brother. And you posted on LinkedIn, Chris, your brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. How do we engineer that conversation as solopreneurs? Because I see a lot of people struggling with that, Chris.
Yeah, there's a lot of different definitions of brand. I don't know who that is. Maybe that's Jeff Bezos who said that originally, and just probably me referencing something that he said. So brand is a relatively modern concept. I'm talking about the last 30 to 40 years. Prior to that, branding was something that some rancher would heat up iron and then stamp their cow, because as they graze, and there's what is it, poachers or people who steal cattle, they're like, well, that's not your cow, that's my cow. And they would use these marks as brands to say, this is mine, this is who owns it, so that they can arrest or put those people into jail, whatever it is. And in the modern concept of brand, as we're evolving, as we're living in a time of abundance, you literally have too many choices for coffee, for gasoline, for breakfast cereals and things of that nature. When somebody establishes a reputation with you that you had a really good experience, you want to be able to repeat that experience over time. And the people who work so hard to craft that experience for you, to manufacture that product or create that app, they also want to protect themselves from competitors who are going to try to look and sound like them. So we're entering into the modern era now, that we're talking about brands in the emotional connection that people have. It's irrational, like why we prefer one brand of water, one brand of soda, or one car over the other. People who drive trucks, they're usually Ford people or they're Chevy people, and we can't figure out why, but it has something to do with how you identify within the culture and the community, what your dad or grandfather drove. It just becomes part of your tradition, and you draw lines in the sand, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, a libertarian, or some other person. It's just how you identify. And so what we want to do is, as companies and as marketers and branders, what we can do is we can start to shape the narrative, and so that we can cultivate those relationships. It has to come from a place of truth, because if you say it so many times, but people don't actually believe it, the brand is what the people say, it's not what you say. So we have to be able to figure out our story, be able to tell it clearly, succinctly, and make it very shareable. But then we also have to live up to the promise of what it is that we're saying. Otherwise, the internet travels very fast. And so it gets around like, no, your cars aren't really great. You use cheap ingredients in your food products, and there was a contamination. And so that becomes your brand.
Wow, I love that answer. I love that answer. And I love what you say there. So powerful. I've been spending a lot of time on X lately, on Spaces, and Elon also is spending a lot of money on videos. And I've been telling, that's why we stream this show on X, because in LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere, because right now everybody's competing for video attention. But my point here is reframing something that you brought it up. When you say something over and over again, I was talking about this on X. We have almost 2,000 people in the space this morning, and the host reframed something that I often talk about. Whether you are Adolf Hitler or Nelson Mandela, if you say something long enough, often enough, people will start to believe in you, whether it's evil or inspiring. So such a powerful point right there, Chris. Like, and then like you say, also believing in yourself. Because for example, you and I, we well-trained speakers. We've been doing this for a very long time. But and then when other people talk about now that it's different because now you and I can be biased, but other people, when they talk about, I always hear great things about you when you're not in the room, and vice versa. And I love the answer about what you say, my friend. Very cool. And now I want to talk about stealing big brand tactics. I mean, Nike, as you and I know, they don't sell shoes; they sell an identity. What is the first step, Chris, to literally to pivot from selling a commodity to selling a tribe like they do? And what is a cheap hack to test this in 48 hours? I know you work with all major big brands in that field. I work with major brands in the telecom field. So from your experience, what would you say to them, my friend? A cheap trick or hack that somebody can test it out in the next 48 hours, or people, they love actionable steps. And I know that you have so many to share and to teach.
What product or service are we in right now? Like, so I can get my mind wrapped around this.
So let's say, for example, we have lots of coaches, consultants, and authors, and sales executives that listen to the show, and they are hungry for more. A lot of them, sometimes they reach out. Well, thank you for having this guest. I learned so much on how to sell my book, on how to sell my course, on how to sell my consulting package from the stage. So people like entrepreneurs, home-based businesses that work on that industry, what would you say in particular to that space?
Okay, very good. That helps me to kind of narrow the field a little bit. So if you're a coach, a consultant, a thought leader, and you're trying to build your brand, the first thing that you need to know is that information is abundant right now. What you're selling is information, right? And if information is so abundant, and we can use a GPT or some AI to kind of get a really good answer for not a lot of money, we're competing against $15 to $25 a month. And when you're charging $250, $2,500, $25,000, or $250,000, you're starting to sell information, and it's a race to the bottom. So here's the thing. We have to ask ourselves this question. If information is abundant and easy, why do people still have coaches, consultants, and buy books and things like that? Because they're looking for a specific person with a point of view in which they are inspired by or challenged by or find that resonates with them to learn from that person in particular. So it's not just information anymore. It's about who is delivering it, the style of delivery. Like, you have a very distinctive style. Prior to us going live, you said, I'm kind of like this raging bull or this character, and you're like the silent assassin. We have very different personalities. So there are some people who are going to be like, Carlos is just for me, or Chris is my kind of tea. And I get that. And we're going to speak to a different audience. We could say almost literally the same thing, but we're going to attract very different audiences. So number one thing you need to do is figure out, who am I for? Because what is my tone of voice? What is my story? How do I want to move about in this world? What are my values and beliefs? And you need to make that known. So something that I do, okay? So very popular thing is when you enter into a space, teachers, coaches, professionals, consultants, they'll say, we're going to create safe space. Everyone has an opportunity to speak. And this is a good practice. I like this. It means that if you're a quiet, introverted person, if you're a neurodivergent person, if you're the rich loudmouth, whatever it is, we're going to make space for everybody to be included and to feel like you can participate and you're welcome here. That's awesome. So what I like to do is go against the grain and do the opposite of what they say. So when I teach and I do my whiteboard sessions, I say to everybody, this is going to be an unsafe space, because I believe the friction is where the truth lies. And when two truths rub up against each other, we get a higher truth. And that's what I'm looking for. So if you're interested in that, please stay. I'm going to teach you. If not, I'm not your cup of tea. Totally fine by me. I'm not offended. Find someone who really you resonate with. So it's being clear about who you are and your point of view and telling your story is the easiest thing that you can do, because it's really within you. It's not an invention, but it's just a discovering of who you are and how you want to move in this world.
Wow, what a powerful way to respond to that, man. I love it, brother. Well said, my friend. Yeah, I love your every time that I seen you or I seen you on the stages, and I love your intros and how you commend the room and how you commend the stage, man. Just like people over here commenting, just a legend and a genius. Very cool, my friend. And now, you and I, we love helping a lot of the big brands, but we also, you and I, we care a lot for the underdogs, right? People that are struggling. We put so much content over this last, few years, and you worked with giants like Sony and Microsoft. What's one thing, Chris, that especially in sales, so many people are terrified, they struggle, that terrifies them about small competitors? I know that this is such a big topic among the big players because now it's easier. You've seen a lot of people. It's not that hard to stand out online, right? Just turn on that camera. You've seen like what happens to the celebrities over the years, right? People becoming celebrities overnight on TikTok and LinkedIn. Now all these companies, they looking for more videos and so many personalities now coming. And so, in your opinion, what is something that terrifies them about small competitors? And then part two, how do we weaponize that fear?
Okay, you're talking about these coaches who are afraid of younger, smaller coaches who are going to compete with them on price and services. So they're going to erode the market. Is that what we're talking about, Carlos?
Yes, like because
Okay.
you work with those major companies, and they're always worrying about one thing that they worry about what they do in sales that terrifies them is the smaller companies coming up. Like you have the big consulting companies, for example, like Accenture and many other, and Deloitte, and now you have all this an army of consultants and coaches coming up online, for example, and they are terrified by them because they take in a massive share. I know that in my company, we take a huge, massive share in that space because we are able to do things that some of these bigger consulting companies are not able to do. In your opinion, with your experience in helping these brands, what would you say, is how do we weaponize that fear that they have from the smaller guys coming up?
Okay. Let me just write this down here. Okay. What I want to do is I'm going to take this in a little different approach here, and I want to talk about reframing this question a little bit.
Mhm.
So we should be concerned and aware of what the competition is doing. But at some point, you stop becoming a leader and you become a follower, and you're playing defensive and not offensive.
Mm.
And I like where Simon Sinek talks about this a little bit. He says the differences between Microsoft and Apple is Microsoft is competing against Apple and Apple competes against themselves. And I think if we just stay in that state of like being really hungry and aggressive to ourselves, always comparing our current self to our old self. And so what we want to do is have some distance between these 2 points. We want to push that. I'm not worried about what other education companies are doing because when I start to focus on that, I start to follow them too much and I'm overly influenced by what they're doing. And
Mm.
I think that's the problem. You're supposed to be a leader in the kind of leadership position. You innovate and you create new products. That doesn't mean you're blind to what's going on. So what I would do is probably create, like if it's a really big company, like a small division within my own company, call it Skunk Works, where you spend 10 to 15% of your resources and you give them complete autonomy. Their main objective for the Skunk Works operation is to disrupt your current business, to innovate the within the agency or within the consultancy. They're not entrepreneurs, but I think they're intrapreneurs, and their whole thing is they're protected. They do R&D and they break stuff, and then they challenge the status quo of the company. Now, people will do this, and the company will come up with really innovative ideas. And if we don't learn from the mistakes of history, what the larger corporation will say, like, that's going to kill our current business model. That's going to disrupt too much of what we're going to do. So we're going to ignore that. And this keeps happening over and over again. The classic example is Kodak, the company that's beloved as an American brand that makes film that we all use and love. It's a Kodak moment. We can say their slogan for them. The Kodak engineer figured out a digital sensor. They're the company that actually invented the technology that drives digital cameras. But what Kodak executives couldn't see was this is the future. But they want to hold on to celluloid film, the heritage, the tradition. And so they let that idea go. And we kind of know how that story works out. Now it's people talking about Sony, about Canon, about Panasonic. They're not talking about Kodak that way anymore. And then Kodak actually goes bankrupt. And so it's this inability to see the future, right? And it's something that we want to invest in innovation within the company to disrupt ourselves, but we have to be smart enough to act on these things. And history is filled with these things. Like Ethernet was a protocol that was invented, I forget what company, but they didn't do anything with it. So someone else took it. And so was PostScript. And so is all these technologies, including the graphic user interface for the desktop.
That's so true, man. And I love it how you reframe that question. And because you brought me way back to Blockbuster days.
Yes.
And you brought me way back there because you are so right. And never underestimate the power. We have many examples, like you mentioned. I mean, nobody would ever think that Mr. Beast were going to create a chocolate to go compete against Hershey's, right? Powerful conglomerate company out there. And he's like, just like you say, he didn't worry about the competition. He focused on, let me do what I can do best. Stuff that you do, that I do. Let's be out there. I'll be creating a brand for myself, because at the end of the day, a lot of people can go and create a chocolate bar, but they buying you, they buying the brand, right? They buying, a lot of people might think that they do what you do, Chris, but no, they buying Chris dough. You are the brand, and you are, like people over here, they're typing, you are a genius, you know what I mean? So that's how you are perceived out there by society. I love when people comment and they talk about, because it's cool. Like, like, think about this, guys. When people see you guys on social media, when they think about you, what do they think about? What are some of the words, the feelings? Same thing with your brand. When they think about your brand, what do they think about? Right? And such a very powerful way to reframing that question, brother. I love it. And let's talk a little bit about AI and modern sales. Chris, you called AI a lazy marketer's cheat code. Give us one illegal way to use ChatGPT or Midjourney or DeepSeek or Perplexity or whatever is your favorite tool out there right now to make prospects feel like we are Nike level personalizers without hiring a team. What would you say to them, brother?
Oh, these are not illegal. I am an AI optimist, and the problem here is when creative people don't use these tools, it's left to other people to use these tools, and unfortunately, what they're doing is maybe not good work, and at worst, unethical or illegal things. We don't want to do that. But AI is already at or surpassing the level of human intelligence. It can do so many things on levels which we don't fully understand. And so you owe it to yourself and your future children to like get on board on this train and understand how to use this stuff. So if we take a look at a lot of different applications, say you're trying to keep up with the pace of like creating content for your different social channels. So for me, I create carousels, I write posts for LinkedIn, for X and things of that nature, but it can be a chore, and this takes a long time for me to do. And the worst thing for a creative person to do is to start with a blank page, and that's really rough, right? But I also have lots of conversations like the ones I'm having with you, Carlos. And so what we have is I have a buddy who then writes an AI robot, who then listens to this conversation and pulls away what are the key ideas, the transformative moments, and then using the language of Chris, me, what it's been trained on, write him a couple different ideas. And based on that, format it like the way he speaks, and trained on the carousels and my writing style, so my tonality is there too. And so in a very short period of time, he can take an hour's conversation and turn it into 10, 20, 30 possible carousels and posts that then we can use. Now, these still need a little bit of tender loving care by somebody like me to put in a little humanity, to add in a personal story, or to remove something that feels really generic, and then to be able to implement and push that out. But if I keep up with this, I can do the work of 4, 5, maybe even 8 people that would have taken me too long for me to do, to free me up to do the things I really enjoy doing.
Wow, no, I love that, my brother. I love that. And on your YouTube video on AI and creativity, it blew it up, Chris. Give us one under the radar AI tool or tactic that salespeople can use tomorrow to cut their outreach time in half.
What are they doing in outreach right now?
So let's say insurance agents, and let's say car salespeople. I do a lot of workshops for insurance companies and car companies. So a lot of sales executives, they follow me. And again, we also have a lot of coaches and consultants that they buy leads and then they reach out to people, they get on a Zoom and they try to sell their consulting services.
Mm-hmm.
Those are a few examples of a few of the leaders that follow us. And I also have a lot of founders of companies and startups that they putting products out there and now they are trying to sell. What is some of the tools that you recommend to help cut it the outreaching half of the time?
Okay. I don't do personally a lot of outreach. That's cold traffic. It's unqualified and it feels a little aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
My way of doing it is to convert cold traffic into warm and potentially hot traffic. And the way that we do that is using a permission-based marketing approach, a term coined by Seth Godin. So if we know the problems, the pain points, and the challenges of the audience we're trying to reach, somebody who's looking for an insurance plan or program for their family or their house or something like that, what are the gaps that they experience in their life? What are their fears? What are their hopes and dreams and desires? What's an ideal outcome? We take the user profile, we punch that through something that then highlights those pain points, and then we're able to more specifically create content that speaks to them. And we can ask the AI machines to say, I want you to use language that would be very familiar to them. I want them to hear their voice when they're reading this to say, like, that sounds like me. That sounds like something I'm experiencing. And what we can then do is we can produce this kind of content on whatever platforms that you want. I recommend platforms like LinkedIn, where people are very prone to professional development. And they can see this. And then what we do is we just have a simple, soft call to action to say, I have a resource for you. I have an analytical tool or an audit that I can give to you. If you comment this, I will send it to you for free. And then you need to send it to them for free. And based on their answers to the audit or what kind of value they get, you've now segmented them into possibly 3 categories. Contact immediately, not a good fit, poor fit, so move them to a different category, and the ones in the middle where could be or could not be a good fit. And those will probably require a little bit more time and nuance to go through. But you can probably look at the content that you put out, the resource that you share. Say this like a video, how to buy a better insurance program or something like that, or how to make sure that the car that you're going to buy has good aftermarket value if you should sell it. If they watch the video to a certain percentage, and even though they've been marked as not ready for buying, you can follow up with them in a month or 3 months or 6 months, and you can put that in an automated program and send very strategic messages to say, hey, has anything changed in the last 30 days? Has anything changed in the last 60 days? And this is the last message I'll send to you. I promise it doesn't seem like it's a good fit, but if you ever change your mind about buying a car or whatever it is, please reach out. We'll be here.
Yes.
It's very permission based.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. I love that. And one thing I know that you like doing controversy on your videos on YouTube, and they work really well. Which I have a powerful question for you. But one thing that I done a lot especially in the insurance field, in the wealth field, done spoke for a lot of insurance companies and blockchain companies and blah 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 in the financial industry. And I often, the same way how a lot of people debunk the magicians, they show how the magic is done. I would show the everyday civilian, people that have insurance policies, whether it's for themselves, their house, their businesses. I would ask them, hey, did your insurance agent or broker ever told you that we can give half of our commission so you will get a better policy? More money would actually grow inside your policy tax-free. Less money will go to commissions or fees in the policy. This is something that companies, they don't tell you about. Have he ever told you about that? Oh, if not, okay, great. Let me review the policy for you for free at no cost, or watch this video at no cost. And then if you decide that you want to learn more and get me to review your policy, I'll be happy to do so, or somebody from my team. And that was such an effective campaign, Chris. We had people and agents and many of the companies that I mentored them done incredible numbers, like triple, quadruple within the month. So very, very powerful way how you answer that question, brother. So no, thank you for that. And I mean, the futures, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, I showed you guys a banner here. I want you guys to go over there and check it out. Chris has over 2.5 million plus followers and growing on The Future. For some of you guys listening, is THEFUT as in Tango, UR. And I want you guys to follow my brother Chris there. But on The Future's YouTube videos, man, they go viral because they are usually controversial. I love how you add a little bit of controversial to them. What is a polarizing opinion or phrase small brands can borrow to hijack attention, Chris, in your opinion, and how to avoid backlash?
Okay.
I want to get into Chris' creative mind because you do it so well, brother. I want to take my hats off to you. You do extremely well, and you see it. The numbers don't lie. I mean, your channels in your social are growing phenomenally. What's the phrase that you always say? You start at 40, and now you're 50, and 10 years later, you built millions of followers around the world. Correct me on how to say that. But you say it very well how you put it. But I would love to hear your point of view on that.
Okay. Mark Manson put out a video or a post about this a while ago. He wrote the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. And he said something about if you want to be a 1%er, and he's not talking about 1% of wealth, but the 1% of thought leaders and coaches and salespeople, you have to do something. You have to be a contrarian, because if you say what everyone else is saying, you're going to be very forgettable. So it's the art of standing out. Okay. I don't set out to be polarizing. It just happens that my opinions and observations happen to be counter what the mainstream is thinking. And so it's just natural. I'm not inventing it. I'm not trying to say things just to get people's attention. I really believe it. So he goes, anybody can be a contrarian. All you have to do is say the opposite of what everybody's saying. So you can say that gravity is not real, or the earth or the moon is made from cheese, or whatever it is you want to say. And people are like, that's weird. So he says the tricky part is you have to be a correct contrarian. You have to say something that goes against common wisdom or common knowledge, but you have to also be correct, because every fool can say something that's totally bananas, but you'll just be labeled as a conspiracy theorist or something like that. So when it comes to how a small brand can own a position, there is something that I've noticed that people do a lot, which is you take a common belief, an expression, whatever it is, and then you just change a part of that expression, and it makes people step back and look at you. Okay? The Dollar Shave Club use this line. Instead of saying save time and save money, they just changed one of the words. Shave time, shave money. And it becomes something they can own. Southwest Airlines used to use this line. When the pilot says, boom, there's that sound, you're free to move about the cabin. They just took it and changed one word. And there's that really fun chime, because when they make that sound, it means you can unbuckle, you can go use the bathroom, you can stretch your legs a little bit. So it's a very happy moment for us. It's like a Pavlovian response. So it goes, boom, you're free to move about the country. And it's just taking a phrase that we already know, even a cliche, and just changing a little bit of it. And I think here's a good example. This always gets people to smile. There's people who like to use profanity in kind of like casual conversation, not like an angry tirade that you're yelling about somebody. Like you can say, hey, you want to give a S, right? So there's a potato chip company and says we use locally sourced potatoes. They're organic from farmers that we know by name, because frankly, we give a chip. You see, so they just take a simple phrase that we already know and they just change it a little bit. And I remember going to this fast casual restaurant that served a lot of salads. And then on the window, when you're walking into the restaurant, it says, kale yes. I'm like, okay. So instead of saying hell yes, they're like, kale yes. And if you're a small brand, think about a cliche that people say about your industry, something you heard over and over again, and take that and find your one little addition or a twist.
Wow. I love it, brother. I love it. And Chris, I mean, you also told me big brands, right? They pay millions to hide certain tactics and certain strategies. I mean, what is a banned tactic they use to create false scarcity or perceived value, in your opinion? And how can ethical businesses replicate it?
I don't have a good answer for this question, Carlos. I know you want me to give you a good answer, but
No, I appreciate it. I love you because you're straight up, and you can even reframe it. And I love it.
I need to have a discussion with you, because if it's banned, I mean, if it's legitimately banned, but maybe you're making a reference to Nike and the Jordans have been banned again because they're celebrating the anniversary of this shoe. So for your audience who may not know this story, the NBA league has certain rules about what you can wear, how big logos can be, and the colors of your sneakers. And when they were recruiting Jordan as a spokesperson for Nike, they wanted to design him such an iconic, cool shoe and to make it very different. And so it was a red and black shoe, and it was too much red and not white enough. And when he would wear it, it caused a little bit of disruption because they didn't want everyone to wear so many different colors and shades because it was not going to be visually pleasing by their standards. So what they did was they issued them a fine. And then Nike capitalized on this and seized it and made a lot out of nothing. They paid the fine, but then they started to say they tried to ban the shoe. This was the shoe that was banned. It wasn't technically banned. It's just you got a little fine. It's as if you parked in 2 parking spaces and they're going to give you a ticket. And if that's what you want to do, you just pay the ticket. You weren't trying to evade the law. You didn't escape prison. You just paid a ticket. But they make a lot of it, and it's kind of classic marketing, like legends or tall tales that are told.
I love it, but that's exactly what I was trying to extract. No, I love it. I love it. You see, guys, I love Chris, man. He's just incredible. And Chris, if a startup said, we have no budget, no audience, and no credibility, how would, like, let's say, for example, Nike would spin that into a strength, or give us like an exact like positioning script that you would use, to address somebody like that? Because as you and I know, a lot of people right now are starting from zero. Like, I mean, you in LA, my prayers to LA, man. You and I were talking offline. I know how you used to have a house that was burned down on fire. My wife's family, many friends as well, lost their homes, the whole shebang with the insurance companies, canceling on people. But, my prayers go to LA. But what would you say to that, Chris? Some of the people, they are rebuilding since COVID, they lost everything. They have no budget. They are a startup. They no audience, no credibility. How would you spin that into a strength and give us like an exact, like a positioning script that you perhaps would use or would suggest for them to use as a strategy?
I don't remember where I heard this. Maybe it's from Alex Ramosi. I'm sorry, I can't cite the source, but let's just say you make a lot of YouTube videos and you made 1,000 videos and you only have 100 subscribers. That would seem like a disaster because you're averaging 1 subscriber per, I don't know, 10 videos or 100 videos that you make. It doesn't feel like it's the right ratio, right? And that's not good. But you can actually own that positioning. When we think of guerrilla warfare, the art of war, like when we start to understand this, it's like if you engage the enemy in a conventional war or warfare where they have superior numbers and organization and munitions, you're going to lose. You have to be strong where you're weak and weak where you're strong. You kind of play the opposite, and you make the enemy think different things. You can't fight them by outspending them because they just have more money. You can't discount them because you'll run out of runway again. So you have to embrace the weaknesses and make them a virtue. And this is not easy to do, but I'll give you the example of how you do this, okay? So we're going to do guerrilla marketing now. There was a campaign for Montana tourism. And they did surveys, interviews with a lot of people, and they asked them, what is it that you think about Montana? They're like, well, there's nothing to do. There's nothing here. It's just mountains and trees or whatever it is. There's nothing here, right? There's nothing here. And they got all this information back, and the creative team says, well, if this is what people think, let's celebrate this. So the ad that they ran, the campaign for Montana tourism, was a picture of nature untouched, and the tagline was, nothing here. Nothing here. And so if you're looking to escape the congestion and the smog and the people, this seems like a pretty good place to be. So you make something that seems weak and you just own it. And you say nothing here. Montana. That's how you make a weakness a strength.
Wow. I love that, brother. I love that. That's awesome. And Chris, in your future course, you teach the anti-pitch. How does someone with no audience can use that framework to attract clients who beg to pay premium prices?
Okay. Are we talking about how to not pitch or how to get clients to pay premium prices?
How to get clients to pay premium prices.
Okay. There's this word, and I think the word has a visual part to it and a conceptual part. So we need to understand all of it, okay? We have to talk about packaging. When we buy a product, a bottle of water, a jar of pasta, the package and how it's designed, where it's placed, and the price tell us a lot about what we can expect from this thing. So if you're going to like a high-end supermarket and there's a shelf full of different pastas or pasta sauces, right? Tomato sauce. And one is in a box and one is in a custom glass jar with like a uncoated paper stock with a jute rope wrapped around it with a wax seal. And it tells you a little story about where the kitchen it was made in and which chef made this and what date it was made. And it just had all these premium materials on it. And instead of it being $3, it was $14. You don't know anything else about these two jars of pasta, but you start to make some assumptions. A story forms in your mind. It's like, wow, why is this one $10 more or so much more money than the other one? I wonder if it's made with better ingredients. It must be like organic. It must be fresh. It must be locally sourced. It's made here. I don't know about the other one. So when you're talking about commanding premium prices, you have to be a very good student of packaging. That's the physical part, but the conceptual part is the story that it tells and the amount of confidence that's communicated in the photography, the illustration. All these things tell people a story about who you are. Part of the packaging is if it's sold out. So if you go and there's like an empty slot here, you're like, why is this not here? Why is there so many jars of this and almost no jars of this? I wonder why it's so popular. Or if they say limit per customer, 2 jars per customer, where the other one has an unlimited supply. So if we want to create scarcity and the concept of premium pricing, what we have to do is reduce the capacity of our ability to deliver this thing. The way we can do that is a couple different ways. We can say, I only work with 3 clients a month and I have an opening in 2026. Put your name on a wait list now and let you know if one opens up. The next way that we can create scarcity or limited supply of us is to raise the point in so much such that only a few people can afford it. And we're not looking for hundreds of customers, we're looking for a handful of customers. And in doing so, the pricing tells a story, the packaging, the experience, the limited quantity or supply of what it is that you do really start to position you as a premium product.
Yes, no, man. I love that. I love that big time. I use that on the stage. Whenever I'm speaking in front of like Fortune 5,000 companies, I can only take a few clients this year. And if you're interested in bringing me in to do a sales workshop and we can talk, and I often work great deals on performance where you give me a shot and give me a small percentage up front, and I'll take a piece of whatever we can do on the back end. And that's how you work 6-figure, 7-figure deals, especially if you can come in for a huge company like Comcast or AT&T or Verizon that have a large sales workforce. Now you can train them in small chunks. And if you're able to produce and get them the numbers that they want, they will keep you on the payroll often, man. So I love it. Incredible example. And man, we have 43 minutes. We have just a few more questions here, my brother. I'm really enjoying. People are fired up over here in the comments. And I mean, you've been killing it and dominating, and so's been Nike for this last 50 years. What's one thing, Chris, that entrepreneurs sacrifice for short-term gains, in your opinion, that guarantee that their brand won't survive in 5 years? What are you seeing out there, brother?
It's super easy. When they focus on performance marketing too much, performance marketing comes at the cost of building a brand. So when you create a piece of content and you're trying to sell to me and you're aggressively pursuing me with retargeting ads and things like that, eventually you wear me down so much so that I'm like, I don't want to hear from you anymore. I'm going to block you, unsubscribe, and I'm going to tune out. What's much better is instead of chasing your prospect is you have your prospects ask to work with you. And the way that you do that is through events, through community things that you put together, through content, through tools and resources, through experiences that you design for your customers so that they feel that personal connection with you and what it is that you're doing. So much so that they go out of their way to refer other people to you. That's how you know you have a really strong brand.
I love that, brother. I love that. Well said. It's you've seen that so much out there, and then you even see like a lot of like gurus sometimes, and people like now when they see it, they're like, yeah, they just go block it. It's I often tell my clients, if you see some people posts out there, and if those posts make you feel anxiety, make you it drain the life or the energy out of you, it's telling you something. It's actually telling, it's a sign, you know. And, I love it. I love what you say there. And my friend, as we're getting towards the end, it's I often ask a question here on the show. It's a powerful question that I ask all my guests. It's 70 years from now, you are 110 years old. And it's your eulogy, brother.
Yeah.
And your best friend, your loved ones, they will be there. They're going to read it, and they're going to say, Chris Doe was dot, dot, dot. In your own words, my brother, who was Chris Doe?
Christo was a good father. He raised his children well, and he looked after his community, and he made a dent in the way that we learn and the way we share information that was equitable for all. That's who he was.
Wow. My brother from another mother. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Mr. Chris Doe in the house. And just like I promised, it's about to go down. And Chris, where is the best place, my friend, that you hang around? Know that we told them earlier to go check it out, The Future, on YouTube, and follow you there. But where do you hang around the most? Best websites and social medias for them to follow up with you, reach out to you. Where do you hang around, my friend?
Okay, if you want more information on the things that I do, just go to thefuture.com. It's FUTUR, thefuture.com. I ping pong back and forth between Instagram and LinkedIn. You can probably catch me most times of the day by checking one of those two platforms. I'm pretty good at answering all my messages, despite how many messages I get. People always ask me, is it really you? I'm like, it's me. It's me. Okay? It's all, there's nobody else that's in my personal feed, so it's just me.
That's awesome, man. Shout out to my brother Chris. Shout out to everybody on the chats, man. Sorry if I didn't bring your chat up. We appreciate all the love, every single one of you over here with us. And I appreciate you, Chris. Stay blessed, my friend. A big hug on your family and your children, your spouse for me. And again, all my prayers to everybody in LA. We will rebuild. We're going to rebuild stronger. You guys know the drill. Together we can do more. And anybody out there that's a little bit down, you know the drill. Just, you know the stories. Whenever you feel like giving up or you are tired, you want to pull that plug, reach out, man. Reach out to Chris, reach out to myself, and picture both of us, giving you a hug, looking you in the eyes, and saying, the days that breaks us are truly the days that makes us. God bless you all.